Are we on the verge of a Canadian economic crisis? As recession fears in Canada loom large, questions about the problem with Canada's economy have taken center stage. Today we will delve deep into the intricacies of the Canadian economy and the policies of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, exploring the challenges plaguing the Maple Leaf Nation's financial landscape. First, let's explore the history of Canada's economy. Canada's economic history is woven into its geography, a sprawling nation that embraces a history deeply rooted in the exploitation of its natural resources. From the earliest days of colonization, fur, timber, and fish drove its economic engine. Transitioning through time, Canada evolved into a vital player in oil and hydroelectricity markets, particularly through Alberta's oil fields and Quebec's monumental hydro dams. This economic narrative thrived alongside Canada's proximity to the United States, with many industries operating in the shadows of American giants. However, as we shall see, a new chapter is being written, one that challenges the familiar foundations. Today, Canada finds itself at a crossroads, a period of economic uncertainty that is impacting its citizens' livelihoods. The once thriving economic prosperity seems to have taken a hit, and a forecast from the OECD predicts Canada to have the slowest growing economy among its wealthy peers over the next 3 decades. The culprit at the core of this issue? Productivity, the engine that drives a nation's wealth. Economists assert that productivity is the golden thread that weaves wealth into an economy's fabric. This metric measures the output an economy generates per worker. The more output each laborer produces, the greater the nation's wealth. Regrettably, Canada's productivity has plateaued. A generation ago, Canadians and Americans boasted similar levels of productivity. Today, the average American worker is nearly 40% more productive than the average Canadian worker. The result is that Canadians earn less than Americans. The average salary in the U.S. is around $57,000, while in Canada, it's less than $44,000. So why is this happening? In the simplest terms, Canada's productivity stagnation can be traced to a monumental shift that has transpired over the past few decades. Instead of the traditional focus on manufacturing, Canadians have redirected their economic energies toward the real estate market, engaging in a dance of buying and selling homes. This transformation from a resource-based economy to what would be likened to a sophisticated Ponzi scheme originated during the global financial crisis of 2008 and 2009. While Canada did not face the same turmoil as the US and British housing markets, it did experience a seismic shift. In response to the global crisis, the Bank of Canada followed the world's central banks in reducing interest rates to nearly zero, an endeavor to stimulate the economy. This sudden plunge in interest rates rendered mortgages astonishingly affordable, and home prices across Canada began to ascend. With approximately 70% of Canadians owning their homes, a sense of newfound affluence and invincibility permeated the population. While the U.S. housing market endured a tumultuous crash, Canada's real estate realm appeared impervious. This burgeoning wealth fueled speculative activities in housing markets, where cities like Toronto and Vancouver witnessed double-digit price hikes annually. The result? A housing bubble that, curiously enough, never burst. The next chapter in Canada's economic saga arrived in 2014, as global oil prices plummeted, drastically impacting the nation's most lucrative export. This marked a critical moment of transition. Businesses and the government diverted their attention from oil to the booming real estate market. The inflow of investment shifted course, propelling residential real estate construction to the forefront. Moreover, Canadian households began reallocating their wealth, favoring real estate over other investment avenues, further amplifying the imbalance in the economy. What did this shift from businesses to this housing scheme lead to? With minimal business investment, the country's capability to spawn new enterprises has dwindled, and what few startups emerge are often absorbed by U.S. conglomerates. This discrepancy stems from a stark contrast in business investment between Canada and the United States. Remarkably, the U.S. channels nearly double the investment per worker compared to Canada, around $27,000 per worker in the U.S. versus just over $14,000 in Canada. Equally concerning, if not more so, is the concentration of financial resources in the housing sector, leading to an unsettling rise in housing unaffordability. As Canada's housing market soared, it brought both prosperity and perils. While existing homeowners reaped the benefits, aspiring homeowners, especially young individuals, faced mounting obstacles to home ownership. Fun fact, from 2010 to today, average house prices in Canada have nearly tripled. The fallout fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic further intensified the situation. As interest rates dropped to zero, Canadians embarked on a borrowing spree to enter the housing market, leading to an astonishing 50% surge in house prices between 2020 and 2022. The subsequent inflation compelled the Bank of Canada to raise interest rates. As the interest rates climbed, variable rate mortgages became more expensive, affecting a third of Canadian homeowners. Moreover, the limited availability of fixed mortgage rates led to longer mortgage amortization periods, an attempt to ease monthly payments that extended the repayment period to a staggering 70, 80, or even 90 years for some. This dilemma gave rise to a significant challenge. A majority of Canadians, especially first-time buyers, found home ownership to be an unattainable dream. The marriage of high housing costs and elevated interest rates has squeezed the financial aspirations of countless individuals and families. How has all this affected the home ownership rate in Canada? Home ownership rates in Canada have plummeted from 70% a decade ago to 66.5% today. This decline is not a standalone event. Rather, it's part of a broader trend that shows no signs of slowing down. One factor that has contributed to this decline is the country's immigration policies. Canada's commitment to immigration, spearheaded by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party, has resulted in an influx of newcomers, around 500,000 per year. While the nation has historically welcomed new residents, the current pace is unprecedented. These arrivals, coupled with the retention of foreign students and temporary foreign workers, have led to a population growth rate of 1 million per year. For a country of 40 million, this growth rate is one of the fastest in the world, paralleling some sub-Saharan African nations. However, Canada's underinvested economy is struggling to keep pace with this rapid expansion. The repercussions of this population growth are multidimensional. Canada's economy, while growing overall, is grappling with a per capita recession, revealing that the economy's growth isn't keeping up with the swelling population. This economic imbalance is impacting job availability, leading to sluggish growth and a less prosperous populace. The very economic fabric that supports Canadians is fraying, underlining the urgency of addressing this crisis. The strain of this population growth extends beyond the economy. Canada's acclaimed healthcare system is being stretched to its limits, with the influx of newcomers challenging the availability of medical professionals. The reason? It's because, despite Canada's immigrant-friendly policies, the nation doesn't recognize foreign medical credentials from most countries, contributing to a shortage of medical practitioners. The pandemic exacerbated this issue, leading to a shortage of healthcare workers who quit because of stress or disagreement with vaccine mandates. The result is a healthcare system grappling with an ever-growing demand and an inadequate supply of healthcare workers. Still, perhaps the most pressing aspect of Canada's crisis is the ballooning housing shortage. While the need for new homes is astronomical, Canada is struggling to keep up. The construction industry's capacity is limited, with around 200,000 to 240,000 new homes built annually, a fraction of the required numbers. This glaring gap in housing supply has led to skyrocketing apartment rents, especially in metropolitan areas like Toronto, which witnessed a 30% increase in just a year. The urgency to build, however, is hampered by the lack of construction workers, a situation further compounded by the nation's focus on high-skilled labor. What has the government done to combat all this? Pretty much nothing, if we're being honest. With 4 major political parties, 5 if counting the Bloc Québécois, at the helm, there is a noticeable absence of effective solutions. Despite the dire need to increase the housing supply, the cost of land and construction is staggering, making large-scale interventions financially unsustainable. Balancing housing affordability and political aspirations proves elusive because no politician would want to risk alienating the majority of Canadians, a whopping 2/3 who still own a home and are happy with their massive gains in their home equity. Additionally, no political party is willing to cut down on immigration due to fears of being labeled xenophobic or racist. The situation in Canada is only bound to get worse if the government continues to turn a blind eye to these problems. If they don't take measures to control the problems, they are only going to spiral out of control from here on out. While Canada's predicament is dire, it's far from unsolvable. Consider El Salvador, once known as the world's most dangerous country. Click the video on screen now to find out how its government managed to solve the problems of gang violence and homicide in the country.